I call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would you really believe the numbers coming out of that man's head, the Minister for Housing Inflation? Housing inflation. Here's a number for you. $800,000. $800,000. That's the average price of an Auckland home today, and that has occurred under that man's watch. So when he stands up and tells you about numbers, don't even believe it, because the worst inflation in New Zealand's housing history has happened under his watch. Sir, if there is a budget that separates this side of the House from the other, it is this budget, and it is about short-termism versus putting something away from the future, and this change to KiwiSaver, sir, is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of good fiscal management. It's about broken promises. And here's a promise I want to read out to you. Here's a promise I want to read out to you. The $1,000 kickstart for KiwiSaver's members will remain as it is now. Will remain as it is now. And who said that in 2011? Well, the Prime Minister said that, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister said that. Another broken promise. Because, sir, this government is going down the same track as their ancestors did back in the 1970s when Muldoon came in. Muldoon came in and killed the superannuation budget that was around then. He pulled it apart. People had accepted it. People believed and knew that that was going to be sure that their savings were protected and that New Zealand would have a pool of investment for the future. That pool today, if that vandal Robert Muldoon hadn't pulled it apart, would have been worth $280 billion today. $280 billion. And, sir, the big point about this is not just about the ability to save and to ensure that that is there for the people in the future. It's also about ensuring that that money, that $280 billion, is able to be invested into the New Zealand economy. It doesn't require us to sell off our assets. It doesn't require us to go into debt, and this government's gone $70 billion into debt. It enables us to invest in our future from our own money, and this government acts that. It poleacts that. Sir, let's look at what's happened, because in the same tradition as the Muldoon government, in the same tradition as and not looking for the future and looking at cynical, short-term, smart aleck budgets, what's happened here, sir, over the last few years is this government has gone on and progressively cut and chopped this KiwiSaver. So, sir, let's go back and have a look what the legacy of this government is with regard to KiwiSaver, because this wasn't the only time they've stepped in and had a chop at the KiwiSaver and tried to vandalise it. Sir, the minimum member contribution, sir, remember that? That was 4%. That got cut to 2% in 2009. It was a cut. There's the first one. Second one, the member fee subsidy. The member fee subsidy. That was cut in 2009. Another cut to KiwiSaver and the incentives of KiwiSaver. Here's a third one. Compulsory employer contributions, cut by that government in 2009. There's three cuts to KiwiSaver since this government has been in power. 4, employer tax credit, cut. Employers no longer had an incentive. That was cut and taken away. There's 4 changes to KiwiSaver that this government has brought in. 5, member tax credit, cut by $500 to members who used to get that. That was back in 2012. And the last one today, sir, the last one that has happened under this budget, the KiwiSaver Kickstart, cut $1,000 removed from future generations that was given to those guys over there for sure, and their family. They made sure that their family got their $1,000 before they stepped in and chopped it. And because they were just saying, they were making a big play over on that side of the House that somehow this isn't going to affect the take-up of people in KiwiSaver. Because let's face it, KiwiSaver is fantastically successful. Fantastically successful. 2.5 million people in New Zealand have signed up for KiwiSaver. 2.5 million people have gone into that system so that they can start saving for their retirement. And what does the IRD say about that? And their analysis from people they have asked and the various surveys that they have done. What do they say? Well, here's a fact. They say, the IRD, the government department, the Inland Revenue, says that 67% of members join KiwiSaver because of the kickstart. Because of the kickstart. 2/3 of those people joining KiwiSaver voluntarily did so because of the kickstart. And this government, the vandals that they are, the short-termism that they are, have gone out and removed that incentive. It's like you've got a successful policy, and what you do is you keep cutting it and cutting it and cutting it and cutting it until it falls over. And then they'll blame it on somebody else, or they won't be in government. They'll leave it to us to actually have to fix up. Sir, this is a travesty. This is a budget about short-termism, broken promises, and not looking out for future generations. But look, don't take our word on how stupid this is, this policy. Let's take the Financial Services Council. The Financial Services Council, whose chair is Jenny Shipley, a former National Party Prime Minister. And what do they say? What do they say about this policy of cutting KiwiSaver kickstart? Let's listen to this. This is like a parent raiding their own child's piggy bank to pay for a round of drinks already promised down at the pub. Let me read that again, just in case you didn't get it clear, because this is not coming from the Labor Party, this is coming from the Financial Services Council. This is like a parent raiding their own child's piggy bank for a round of drinks already promised down at the pub. Doesn't that say it all? It's about short-termism, about looking at what's in front of you, smart alecky little gimmicky promises, and forgetting about what's actually happening down further down the road to the future generations. Raiding the piggy bank, it goes on to say, of the next generation is not the smartest move when the population is ageing. It is a pity that the government's failure to manage its own finances will hold back some younger New Zealanders from better managing their own future finances. In other words, sir, not only is this stupid, but it also sets an extraordinarily unfortunate example to everybody else out there that says, look out for yourself now, because who knows what's going to happen in the future. Because the issue about retirement policies, Mr. Speaker, is that it's about certainty. You invest in them now, hoping that everything will be fixed and right in 20, 30, 40 years' time. And when every single budget, this government comes in and cuts what people are come to believe is their right, and they're putting in their money every week on the understanding that there's going to be some sort of nest egg at the end, and this government comes in and cuts it and changes it every single time, then they have no confidence in it. And suddenly we kill what has been a fabulous means of being able to save and what has been able to invest in New Zealand's future. Sir, this government is about short-termism, it's about broken promises, and it doesn't deserve to be sitting on that side of the House.